It was supposed to be an ordinary afternoon. Leonard, an elderly man with a gentle posture and simple clothing, walked slowly into the grand hotel he had visited countless times before. His steps were steady but quiet, the kind of presence people barely noticed, until the chaos began. The moment he entered the marble-floored lobby, a sharp voice cut through the calm. It was Marissa, his daughter-in-law. Her heels clacked aggressively as she marched toward him, eyes filled with irritation and superiority. Without even lowering her voice, she snapped, "Why are you here again? Don't you understand this area is for VIP guests only?" People in the lobby turned their heads. Some pretended not to stare, but everyone heard her. Before Leonard could answer, she continued, louder, crueler. "You're nothing but a burden, a penniless old man who refuses to stop clinging to our family. Do you think you deserve to be in the VIP lounge?" Each word hit Leonard like a blade, but he remained still. His hands trembled slightly, yet his expression stayed calm, almost too calm. Marissa crossed her arms, lips curled in contempt. "Look at your clothes. Look at yourself. You bring shame just by standing here." What hurt even more wasn't her humiliation. It was the figure standing behind her, Leonard's son, his own child, the boy he had raised, loved, and protected. He stood there stiffly, eyes averted, not saying a single word, not defending his father, not even showing disagreement. Just silence, a silence that cut deeper than Marissa's insults. Leonard lowered his gaze, not because he was ashamed, but because he finally understood. His son wasn't going to save him. Not today, not from her, not even from injustice. But the lobby didn't yet know that the quiet old man being insulted was the last person on earth they should underestimate. 2. The lobby fell into an uneasy silence. Marissa, feeling triumphant after publicly belittling Leonard, let out a sharp breath and turned her back on him, ready to march toward the VIP elevators she believed she owned. But Leonard didn't move. He simply stood there, watching her with eyes that no longer reflected hurt, but something else, something colder, something resolute. Slowly, he reached into the inner pocket of his worn jacket and pulled out his phone. No anger, no trembling, just a calm, controlled action, almost rehearsed. He dialed a number. A few rings later, a voice answered with immediate respect. "Good afternoon, Mr. Leonard. How can I assist you today?" Those nearby, including Marissa and his son, turned slightly toward him. Why was the hotel manager speaking to him like that? Leonard spoke softly, but the entire lobby seemed to hear him. "Please cancel all VIP reservations under the name Marissa Evans, effective immediately, and disable her access to every premium service." There was no hesitation on the other end. "Of course, sir. It will be done within the next minute." Click. Leonard put the phone back into his pocket as calmly as he had taken it out. 30 seconds later, a notification beeped on Marissa's phone. Then another, and another. Her confident stride halted abruptly. She frowned, unlocking the screen. Her eyes widened. VIP lounge access revoked. Penthouse upgrade canceled. Private concierge service terminated. Account privileges suspended. Her face turned pale. What is this?" she muttered, tapping frantically. Her husband, the silent son, checked his phone too and froze in confusion. Just a moment ago, she mocked Leonard for not belonging in the VIP area. Now she wasn't allowed in either. Marissa spun around, pointing aggressively at Leonard. "What did you do? You can't just—" But before she could finish, the hotel manager himself hurried toward them, nearly bowing as he approached Leonard. "Mr. Leonard, I apologize for the delay. Everything has been canceled as per your request." Then he turned toward Marissa with a firm but professional tone. "Ma'am, your privileges have been suspended. Please refrain from entering any VIP zones." The entire lobby witnessed it. The old man she had mocked was the person the hotel respected the most. Leonard didn't smirk. He didn't insult her back. He simply nodded politely to the manager, then looked at his son, not with anger, but with disappointment so deep it was almost silent punishment. Marissa's voice trembled with disbelief. Who are you?" Leonard never answered her, because soon enough, the truth would reveal itself, and it would shatter everything she thought she controlled. 3. Marissa stood frozen in the middle of the lobby. Just minutes earlier, she had humiliated Leonard in front of strangers, mocking his appearance, his clothes, his worth. But now, the hotel manager was treating him as if he owned the entire building. Her heartbeat quickened. Something was wrong. Very wrong. She stepped closer, her voice cracking with disbelief. "Why are they listening to you? You're nobody. You're just—" But before she could spit out another insult, the manager cleared his throat politely. "Mrs. Evans, I believe there has been a misunderstanding." He turned to Leonard with deep respect, then looked back at Marissa, a stark contrast in tone. "Mr. Leonard is not just a guest. He is one of our key stakeholders. He owns 15% of this hotel." A ripple of shock traveled across the lobby. 15%, not a small investor, not a symbolic shareholder, a major owner. Marissa felt her knees weaken. Her husband, the son, stared at his father as if seeing him for the first time in years. He had known his father had some savings, but this was an entirely different level. The manager continued, "Without Mr. Leonard's approval, this hotel would not function the way it does today. Our VIP policies were established in collaboration with him. His influence here is substantial." Leonard remained silent, neither bragging nor gloating. It wasn't in his nature, but the truth was out now. The old man Marissa belittled wasn't poor. He wasn't powerless. He wasn't someone she could manipulate or disgrace. Behind his quiet demeanor was a portfolio worth millions: properties, stocks, trust funds, all carefully managed and hidden from those who didn't deserve to know. It became painfully clear Leonard never lacked money. He simply lived modestly and because he valued humility more than wealth. Marissa stumbled back, her voice trembling. You're rich? All this time and you had money?" Leonard finally lifted his eyes to meet hers. Calm, unbothered, yet piercing enough to silence her. "Wealth doesn't define character, Marissa," he said quietly, "but it certainly reveals everyone else's." The lobby fell silent again. For the first time, Marissa realized she had insulted someone far beyond her reach, not just financially, but morally. And this was only the beginning, because the truth about Leonard's fortune was nothing compared to the truth about her own past. As Marissa stood there speechless, the atmosphere in the lobby shifted. But the person most shaken wasn't her. It was Leonard's son, Daniel. For the first time in years, he looked at his father without the fog of manipulation clouding his eyes. A mixture of guilt, confusion, and shame settled across his face. After a long, heavy silence, he whispered, "Dad, why didn't you ever tell me?" Leonard didn't answer immediately. He simply observed his son, this grown man who once clung to his leg as a child, who once promised he'd always protect him. But somewhere along the years, Daniel had become a stranger, and the root of that change was standing right behind him, Marissa. She grabbed Daniel's arm, squeezing tightly, too tightly, as if trying to pull him back under her control. "Don't listen to him," she hissed. "He's hiding things. He's always been secretive. That's why you shouldn't trust him." But Daniel's eyes stayed on his father, searching for answers. Leonard sighed softly. "Son, you stopped trusting me long before today." Daniel blinked, hurt by the truth he wasn't ready to acknowledge. Leonard continued, voice steady. "For years, I wondered why you pulled away. Why calls went unanswered? Why visits grew shorter, colder?" His gaze shifted to Marissa, then back to Daniel. "But I understand now. Manipulation can be invisible when it's done by someone you love." Daniel's shoulders stiffened. He knew his father was right. Marissa had been shaping his thoughts for years, subtly at first, then aggressively, convincing him his father was a financial burden, complaining that Leonard didn't contribute anything, whispering that having an old man around would ruin their social image, slowly creating distance, guilt, and resentment. She had isolated Daniel from the one person who loved him unconditionally. Leonard studied his son's face, noticing the exhaustion in his eyes, the unmistakable signs of a man trapped in a marriage built on control. "You used to defend me even when I was wrong," Leonard said softly. "But then, you stopped defending me even when I was right." Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came out. Marissa stepped in front of Daniel, blocking his view of Leonard like a shield. No, like a wall. "Enough," she snapped. "He's manipulating you. He wants to turn you against me because he's jealous of our life. Don't fall for it." But this time, Daniel didn't look at her. He kept staring at his father. For the first time in years, he questioned everything. Every word, every warning, every accusation Marissa had planted in his mind. And in that moment, a realization began to bloom, slow but undeniable. He hadn't just drifted away from his father, he had been pushed. And Marissa was the one pushing. While the tension between father and son filled the lobby, there was something else, something darker, lurking beneath the surface. A truth Leonard had kept quiet. A truth Daniel had never bothered to uncover. a truth Marissa hoped the world would never discover. But secrets have a way of clawing their way to the light. As Daniel struggled with the realization that he had been manipulated, Leonard finally spoke again, this time with a somber tone. "Daniel, do you really know the woman you married?" Marissa's eyes widened. Her voice sharpened like a blade. "Don't you dare." Leonard ignored her warning. He had stayed silent long enough. "Your wife has done this before," he said. "Not just to you. Not just to our family, but to her own father." The words hit Daniel like a thunderbolt. "Her father?" Marissa stepped forward, rage igniting in her eyes. "Stop it. You don't know anything." But Leonard continued steady and calm. "She abandoned him." Daniel froze. Leonard nodded slowly, confirming the unthinkable. "She left her own father in a nursing home." Marissa's fists clenched, breathing uneven. "That's not true. He wanted to stay there. But Leonard's voice cut through her excuses. "She left him there for 14 years. The lobby fell completely silent. Even the hotel staff pretended to work slower, ears tilted toward the unfolding drama. Leonard's voice grew heavier. "And she did it because she wanted full control of his assets. She pushed him out of his own home, refused to bring him back, and waited until she could claim everything he owned." Daniel's face drained of color. He stared at his wife, the woman he trusted more than anyone, with pure disbelief. "Marissa, is that true?" She shook her head violently. "No. He's twisting things. My father was old, he was sick, he couldn't live alone. I did what was best." But her voice wavered. Her eyes darted around. Her breathing grew rapid. Her carefully crafted facade began cracking. Leonard stepped closer, not threateningly, but with the authority of someone who knew the truth. "Your wife didn't take care of her father, Daniel." A pause. A quiet inhale. "She abandoned him, just like she planned to abandon me once she got what she wanted from this family." Marissa snapped, "You have no proof." But Leonard gave a thin, knowing smile. Because proof was already on its way. And soon, her past, every lie, every cruelty, every betrayal, would be exposed for everyone to see. This humiliation at the hotel was nothing compared to what awaited her next. The air in the lobby felt heavier now, thick with tension, betrayal, and truths that had been buried for far too long. But Leonard wasn't finished. Not yet. He looked at his son, Daniel, whose face was already pale from the revelations about Marissa's past. What came next would break him even further, but it needed to be said. Leonard took a deep breath. "Do you remember last spring, Shum, when I told you someone had withdrawn money from my account without permission?" Daniel slowly nodded. He remembered. Leonard had mentioned it once in a quiet phone call. A missing $47,000. Daniel didn't think much of it at the time, mostly because Marissa told him it was probably a bank error and not worth worrying about. Leonard continued, his voice low. "I didn't pursue the matter immediately because I wanted to believe it was a mistake." His eyes locked onto Daniel's. But it wasn't. A soft gasp rippled through the lobby. Marissa shifted anxiously, gripping her handbag as if ready to flee. Leonard's next words fell like a hammer. "That money was taken by someone using your name." Daniel felt his stomach drop. My name? Dad, I never." Leonard raised a gentle hand. "I know. It wasn't your idea." He then turned toward Marissa. Her breathing quickened. Her eyes darted toward the exit. She looked like a predator who suddenly realized she was the prey. Leonard's voice hardened. "She instructed you to do it, didn't she, Daniel?" Daniel opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Not a word, not a denial. Just a silent confirmation. The truth hit him like a punch to the chest. He had allowed himself to steal from his own father. Not for selfish reasons, not because he wanted the money, but because he was afraid of his wife, afraid of her anger, her manipulation, her relentless pressure. Leonard spoke again, but softer now. "Do you think I didn't recognize your handwriting on the authorization slip?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Dad, I didn't want to do it. She said we needed the money. She said you wouldn't notice. She said it was mine anyway because one day I'd inherit everything." His voice cracked, and I believed her. Leonard stepped closer. For the first time, both father and son stood face to face in complete vulnerability. "You believed her because she made you feel trapped, because she convinced you I didn't care about you, because she wanted control over everything, including you." Daniel's tears finally fell. He broke, not because of the money, but because he realized how deeply he had betrayed his father without even understanding the extent of manipulation. Marissa suddenly snapped, voice trembling with fury. "Oh, please! He took the money for us, for our family. And you're acting like you're the victim? You have plenty of money. You wouldn't even miss $47,000. Leonard turned his gaze toward her, eyes sharp as glass. "That's the problem, Marissa. A cold silence. You think wealth means nothing, but trust is priceless." Marissa swallowed hard. For the first time, she had no comeback, because deep down she knew this wasn't about money. It was about betrayal, manipulation, control, and the cracks in her perfect facade were finally beginning to shatter. The confrontation in the lobby had already shaken everyone, but Leonard knew the story wasn't complete yet. Because long before today's chaos, long before Marissa entered their lives, someone had already foreseen the dangers ahead. Her name was Grace, Leonard's late wife, Daniel's mother. A woman of quiet wisdom and unshakable intuition, Leonard took a slow breath, remembering her gentle smile. The lobby was silent as he finally spoke. "Before your mother passed away, she prepared everything." Daniel looked up, confused. "Prepared what?" Leonard's voice softened. "Protection." A single word that made Marissa stiffen. Leonard continued, his tone steady as if revealing a secret he had held for years. "Your mother was worried, not about her illness, but about what might happen to me after she was gone." Daniel frowned. "Why? Why would she think something would happen?" Leonard's gaze shifted toward Marissa. Then the truth emerged, because she saw what you never saw, Daniel. She saw the way Marissa treated you, the way she looked at our home, our finances, our family. Marissa blurted out, "This is ridiculous. She barely knew me." Leonard cut her off. "Your mother understood people better than anyone. And she warned me that if anything happened to her, someone might try to take advantage of me." Marissa's face drained of color. Leonard went on, "So she set up a complete legal structure. A trust, multiple accounts only accessible with dual verification, power of attorney limits, financial protections, property restrictions." Daniel blinked in shock. Marissa's hands began trembling around her designer purse. Leonard finished. "In simple terms, she created a system that guaranteed no one could steal from me. Not even family, not even someone married into the family." A suffocating silence settled. Marissa finally snapped, "You're lying. If she set all that up, then how did Daniel withdraw the money?" "You..." Leonard replied calmly. "That's why the bank flagged the withdrawal immediately. That's why they contacted me. That's why I knew something was wrong." Daniel swallowed hard. "Mom did all that one for you?" Leonard nodded. "For both of us." Then he looked directly into his son's eyes. "She knew you might fall into the wrong hands one day, not out of malice, but out of love. Your greatest weakness has always been your heart, Daniel, and she wanted to protect you from someone who would use it against you." Daniel's breath hitched as the truth sank in. His mother had seen everything years before it happened. And Marissa, she wasn't just losing her grip on the family. She was losing the last layer of lies that kept her protected. Leonard looked at Marissa one final time. "Grace tried to save this family even after she was gone. But you tried to tear it apart." Marissa's lips quivered. Her mask, so carefully crafted, was now in ruins. What she didn't know was that Grace's protection was only the beginning. Someone else was already working to expose her. Someone younger, smarter, and far braver. While the adults argued, unraveled, and revealed their buried truths, there was someone else quietly standing at the edge of the storm. Someone who had seen more than anyone realized. Emily, Leonard's granddaughter, Daniel and Marissa's daughter. A young woman with a sharp mind, a compassionate heart, and eyes that had witnessed the cracks in her family long before the rest of them noticed. For years, Emily had watched her mother manipulate her father. She had watched her grandfather slowly fade from the family gatherings. She had heard whispered fights behind closed doors. She had seen the way her mother controlled every decision, every dollar, every movement. And she had stayed silent until she couldn't anymore. The moment Leonard revealed the truth about the $47,000 and the legal protections Grace left behind, Emily stepped forward. Not timidly, not hesitantly, but with quiet determination. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a folder, thick, heavy, and sealed. Marissa's eyes widened in panic. "Emily, what are you doing?" But Emily's gaze didn't falter. She opened the folder, revealing printed bank statements, voice recordings transcribed word for word, photos of documents Marissa tried to hide, screenshots of conversations, emails between Marissa and a lawyer discussing asset acquisition strategies, and even notes from the nursing home Marissa abandoned her father in. The evidence was overwhelming. Emily spoke clearly, her voice steady despite the tremor of emotion beneath it. "I didn't want to believe it at first, but Mom, you've been lying to all of us." Daniel's breath caught. Leonard's eyes softened with both sadness and pride. Marissa shook her head violently. "Emily, you don't understand any of this. You are a child," but Emily stood taller. "No, I'm not a child. I'm your daughter. And I've watched you manipulate this family for years." Her voice cracked, but only for a moment. "I collected everything because I knew one day the truth would have to come out." She handed the folder to Leonard. "Grandpa, you deserve to be protected. Dad deserves to know the truth. And Mom." She turned to Marissa, her expression no longer fearful but heartbroken. "You deserve to face what you've done." Marissa's face twisted with desperation. "How could you betray me like this? I am your mother." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't step back. "A mother protects her family. You tried to destroy yours." The sentence hit harder than any evidence in the folder. Daniel slowly reached for the documents, flipping through the damning pages with trembling fingers. Each paper, each message, each signature, all of it pointed to the same horrific truth. Marissa had orchestrated every fracture in their family. And Emily, the daughter she thought she controlled, was the one who would finally expose her. The lobby was silent, the dripping truth louder than any scream. And yet, there was still one more witness waiting to appear. Someone from Marissa's past. Someone she had hoped was gone forever. Just when the tension in the lobby felt like it couldn't rise any higher, it did. Because at that exact moment, as Emily's evidence lay exposed in trembling hands, as Marissa's mask began shattering piece by piece, the hotel doors slid open with a soft mechanical sigh, and an elderly man stepped inside. His steps were slow, his posture slightly bent, but his eyes, tired, wounded, determined, held a fire that had been extinguished for far too long. Emily noticed him first. Her breath caught. Daniel turned. Leonard's eyebrows lifted in recognition. But Marissa went completely still. Her face drained of color. Her fingers twitched. Her voice died in her throat. Because the man standing at the entrance was someone she never expected to see again. Someone she had hoped the world had forgotten. Her father. The father she abandoned in a nursing home. The father she left without visits, without care, without a single phone call, for 14 years. The father whose existence she buried under lies and forged documents and carefully crafted excuses. Now he was here, alive, present, and looking directly at her. He approached slowly, each step echoing loud enough to feel like thunder across the silent lobby. When he finally stopped in front of Marissa, she whispered, "Dad?" But he didn't smile. He didn't embrace her. He didn't show even a hint of affection. Instead, his voice came out rough from years of neglect. "You left me." Marissa flinched as if struck. He continued louder now, his pain spilling into every word. "You promised you would visit. You promised you'd come back for me. But you never did." Daniel's face twisted in shock as he swallowed the truth. The old man's eyes reddened. "For 14 years I waited. I waited for my daughter." Tears streamed down Emily's cheeks. But Marissa took a step back, shaking violently. "No, you don't understand. I had a life. I had responsibilities. Her father raised his hand, stopping her. "You had money to gain." The words sliced through the air. He looked at Daniel, then Leonard, then Emily. "She left me in that place because she wanted power. She wanted control. She wanted everything I had, and she didn't want an old man getting in her way." Marissa, desperate, lunged forward. "Stop lying. They're manipulating you. They're all against me." But the old man's next words silenced her completely. "When she found out I named a charity as my beneficiary, she disappeared. The moment I had nothing she could take, she walked away." A gasp went through the bystanders. Daniel staggered backward, devastated. Emily couldn't look at her mother. Leonard watched with quiet sorrow, not surprise. And Marissa, she looked like her world was collapsing from every side. Her father took one final breath, pointing a trembling hand at her. "You did to him." He nodded toward Leonard. It's exactly what you did to me, flounce. No excuses left. No lies strong enough to hide behind. No manipulation powerful enough to twist this truth. For the first time, the real Marissa was exposed to everyone. Everything she had built. Her reputation, her control, her image, her lies was crumbling. And this time, there was no escape. The lobby was no longer just a hotel entrance. It had become a courtroom, a battlefield, a place where every secret, every betrayal, every lie that had poisoned the family for years was finally surfacing. But Leonard knew this confrontation needed to happen somewhere private, somewhere quiet, away from the guests, away from the echoing whispers. So the hotel manager, recognizing the gravity of the situation, guided them into an exclusive conference suite normally reserved for board meetings. A long polished table, dimmed lighting, silence thick as smoke. Everyone took their seats, Leonard calm and resolute, Daniel broken and ashamed, Emily holding the folder of evidence, Marissa trembling, her confidence drained, and the man she abandoned, her father, resting in a chair at the end of the table. This was it, a family tribunal, a reckoning. Leonard placed Emily's thick folder in the center of the table. The sound echoed, sharp, heavy, final. Then he spoke. Today everything comes out. No more lies, no more secrets. Emily opened the folder and began laying out the evidence one piece at a time. First, the bank statements, showing the unauthorized $47,000 withdrawal. Daniel stared at them as if they were knives stabbing into his conscience. Next came the voice recordings, Marissa's clipped words, her bitterness, her manipulation. Daniel flinched at every sentence. Then the email exchanges, where Marissa plotted strategies to gain access to Leonard's holdings once she convinced Daniel to take full control. Marissa lunged forward. Those emails are taken out of context. I was planning for our future, but Emily overrode her. Mom, every message is signed by you. Leonard slid another document forward. And this is what your father left in his nursing home records. Years of no contact, no payments, no visits. Marissa's father closed his eyes, voice trembling. You forgot me, because I had nothing left for you to take. Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. The truth was too heavy, too devastating. Still, Leonard wasn't finished. He placed the legal documents Grace had prepared onto the table. Trust accounts, asset protections, emergency provisions meant to shield him from exploitation. He looked at Daniel. Your mother feared something like this would happen. She protected us long before we knew we needed protection. Daniel lowered his head, whispering, Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't listen. Leonard gently touched his son's shoulder. You were blinded, not cruel. Finally, Emily cleared her throat and played the last recording, a conversation between Marissa and an attorney. Once Leonard is out of the picture, Daniel will inherit everything. I'll make sure he does exactly what I say. Daniel's breath stopped. Marissa's face turned white. The attorney's voice in the recording continued. And the granddaughter? Marissa's cold response. She'll fall in line. If not, I'll handle her. Emily clenched her fists, holding back tears. Daniel shot up from his chair, horrified. You threatened our daughter? Marissa stammered. I didn't mean it. I was angry. I wasn't actually going to, but no one believed her. Not anymore. Her father whispered, This is who you became, Marissa. Someone driven by greed, not love. The room went silent again. Every piece of evidence now lay scattered across the table, like shards of glass reflecting the shattered remains of their family. Leonard stood up slowly, his voice steady, final. This ends today. Marissa looked around the table, eyes wide, desperate. You can't do this. I'm your wife, Daniel. Your mother, Emily. Your daughter. Emily shook her head with quiet heartbreak. You stopped being our family the moment you tried to destroy it. And with that, the verdict was clear. The truth had spoken. The damage was undeniable. Marissa's fate was sealed. But one more chapter remained. The consequences, the silence that followed was suffocating. Not a word, not a breath. Just the crushing weight of everything Marissa had done, finally exposed under the harsh light of truth. She stood trembling at the center of the room, surrounded by evidence, judgment, and the very people she had hurt the most. She tried to gather her composure, straightening her shoulders, lifting her chin, but the cracks in her confidence were obvious. Her voice broke. You can't just throw me away. I'm your wife, Daniel. I'm Emily's mother. You can't erase me like I never mattered. Daniel looked at her with a heartbreak so deep, it aged him years and seconds. You mattered, he whispered. But the person you became, I don't recognize her anymore. Marissa shook her head violently. I did everything for this family, for our future, for you. Emily stepped forward, her voice calm but devastating. No, Mom, you did everything for yourself. Tears filled Marissa's eyes, part anguish, part rage. She turned desperately to Leonard. You did this. You poisoned them against me. You should have just stayed out of our lives. Leonard remained calm, a pillar of quiet strength. I didn't destroy you, Marissa. You did that yourself. Marissa stumbled backward, her father's gaze heavy with disappointment. The old man spoke softly, but the words cut harsher than any yell. You abandoned your own blood. You walked away from me when I needed you most. And now your family walks away from you, just like you once walked away from mine. Marissa cried out in agony. Please, Dad, don't say that. Don't leave me again. But he lowered his head. You left me first, and that broke her completely. Daniel stood slowly, hands trembling but resolute. Marissa, I'm filing for divorce. She gasped as though all the air had been ripped from her lungs. No, you can't. You can't take everything from me. Daniel cut her off, something he had never done before. You already took everything. My trust, my peace, my relationship with my father. You turned me into someone I hate. Emily squeezed her father's arm gently. Daniel's voice steadied. You won't have access to our finances anymore. You won't have control over me. And you will not, ever, hurt Emily again. Marissa turned to her daughter, pleading, Emily, sweetheart, please, tell them you need me. Tell them you want me to stay. Emily blinked back tears. I need a mother who loves, not manipulates. A mother who protects, not destroys. I don't need the person you've become. Marissa staggered back as though struck. Then the final blow came. Leonard spoke once more, voice like a quiet bell of truth. You're no longer welcome in this family. The words echoed through the room, a sentence, a verdict, a farewell. Marissa collapsed into a chair, shaking uncontrollably. Her divorce imminent, her reputation destroyed, her schemes exposed, her daughter rejecting her, her father condemning her, her husband done with her. She had lost everything, not because of them, but because of the monster she allowed herself to become. This was her fall, her reckoning, her end. But after destruction, sometimes comes healing, and that would belong to Leonard. When Marissa was escorted out of the room, her cries fading down the hallway, a deep, heavy silence settled over the family. But this silence was different. It wasn't the silence of fear, or manipulation, or secrets. It was the silence that comes after a storm, when the sky finally opens and the air begins to clear. Leonard looked at the faces around him, his son broken but awakening, his granddaughter brave and unwavering, and the father of the woman who had caused so much destruction, sitting quietly with sorrowful eyes. There was pain everywhere, but there was also something else, hope. Daniel approached Leonard slowly, like a child approaching someone he feared he had lost forever. His voice trembled. Dad, I don't deserve your forgiveness. Leonard shook his head gently. Forgiveness isn't something you earn, son. It's something given out of love. Tears streamed down Daniel's face as he fell into his father's arms. It was the first time in years that Leonard felt the weight of his son's embrace, the same boy who once hugged him without hesitation. Now they held each other with years of regret and unspoken apologies between them. Emily joined them, wrapping her arms around both, a symbol that the family was whole again even after being torn apart. Later that afternoon, as they sat together in the hotel garden, Leonard turned to Emily. You saved us, he said softly. Emily shook her head. No, Grandpa. You saved us by being the man you are. Kind, patient, forgiving. Leonard chuckled. Your grandmother would be proud of you, Emily. You have her strength. Emily's eyes filled with soft tears. I just wanted our family back. And now they finally had a chance. Daniel spoke up next, voice earnest. Dad, I'm going to change. I'm going to make things right. I want you back in my life, not because of money, but because I miss you. Leonard smiled warmly. Then you already have. The wounds wouldn't heal overnight, but they would heal, because the people willing to heal together were still here. The toxic presence was gone. The manipulation was gone. The fear was gone. What remained was the family Leonard always believed in. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Leonard felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. A future where he wasn't isolated. A home where he was wanted. A family that saw him, respected him, loved him. He rested a hand on Emily's shoulder. You're my greatest blessing, he whispered. Emily leaned into him. "And you're mine." Daniel watched them with gratitude, a man finally freed from chains he didn't know were binding him. The family walked out of the hotel together, united, stronger than ever. Behind them, the shadows of betrayal faded. Ahead of them, the light of healing awaited. And Leonard, the quiet old man once insulted in the lobby, was no longer a victim of cruelty. He was the pillar of a family reborn. Happy, safe, loved. A man who had lost everything to manipulation, but regained more than he ever imagined through truth, courage, and the unbreakable bond of family.